Today, we are going to be talking about open source software. Now, this may seem kind of like a bit of a leap from coming from the beginner stuff that we've been learning so far. Open source seems kind of like a daunting topic, a daunting thing to get into. But open source software is collaboration on a large scale, basically, what it boils down to. It is software that's developed in a collaborative public manner. And it has no copyright constraints, and it can be duplicated, modified, updated, improved by the entire dev community. And it encourages that kind of camaraderie between people working together, and it brings in different diverse perspectives, and it saves the consumer, the end user of products, a lot of money usually, since they're not having to actually pay for open source software for the most part. So like some of those descriptions of what open source is sounds almost kind of like an unattainable utopian ideal, like kind of like a communistic, like everybody shares the wealth, like almost too good to be true, which is funny because it works so well. And we see examples of it working so well on a daily basis, everything in front of us. We see Wikipedia, we see VS Code, we have Git itself is open source. We have Chromium, which is what Google Chrome is built on top of. Firefox, Linux, all of these things are open source. And it's a pretty common sentiment that open source software is the best software in the entire world. And it has a lot to do with what we just talked about, just the collaboration, different people contributing different perspectives. If you have an open source project, accessibility, for example, something we talk about, is going to be infinitely better because if you have some users that are developers or engineers that have any kind of disability that want to use that product, and there's something lacking, there's a contrast problem, there's missing ARIA attributes or alt text, things like that. Instead of having to just complain or call some customer care line that's never going to actually get a change made, those changes can be made by the community themselves. So you get people that are passionate about different parts of software development, and they contribute to those things, and they have a sense of ownership over that software and that product. And it really can just drives quality up. Which can be really awesome. So open source is a really powerful and wonderful part of the development community. And although it is daunting to get into, it's pretty cool, to me at least, that it exists at all, that it actually ends up working. And I think a lot of this comes from the feeling that we're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants as far as like what we are learning here. So, I mean, everything in software and web development and engineering is an abstraction. Everything is using a framework to understand something more complex underneath it. So even when we write JavaScript, JavaScript gets compiled down into machine code, and then machine code gets compiled down into like the actual ones and zeros of binary code. And then from there, it goes down into physical, bits on the actual chip. And those are all abstractions. Like there's no way a human brain could understand, bit level code, binary code, and actually read it. But we built these systems, other people have built these systems that allow us to abstract out that complexity. And we benefit from all of that, so we may feel like we're superheroes writing all this code, making all this stuff happen, but we're really just leveraging a lot of hard work that other people had done before us. And I think open source is basically an acknowledgement of how much work other people have put into the things that we do, and kind of embracing that and saying, I built this cool application, but it uses 7 different libraries that other people wrote to, for a date picker, so that we could get a nice pretty date picker that doesn't have bugs in it. It has, a color picker, and it has all these other pieces to it that would be really difficult components to write from scratch, but we had got them from other people as open source. And now I have this piece of cool software, and that's going to be open source because, I got so much from the community, I want to give back to it. So that's kind of at the heart of what it is. It's a very optimistic kind of ideal. So why would you choose to make your software open source is a question, I think, in some people's minds, because it's like, okay, cool, yeah, that's awesome, but why would any company do that? Like, why does GitHub have open source software? Why do they trust other people to just contribute to it? How do they make money off of it? And open source isn't just altruistic, but it's also practical. By making your software available to everyone who uses it and wants to improve it, you empower your users and build a sense of ownership. From Wikipedia, they have a quote that says, the mix of divergent perspectives, corporate objectives, and personal goals speeds up innovation. And yeah, Wikipedia itself being open source. So this mixture of different end goals does help a lot with what the product actually ends up being. So it's just more robust and it's better. It's tested better for the most part. People run into bugs and then they just fix them themselves rather than having to, enter tickets and things like that into a system where they're, you're trying to get feedback from your users as to what things are working, what things aren't working. Trying to figure out what your users want is a big part of like corporations. And with open source, your developers are your users, so they can just they already know what they want and they can make those changes. And people upvote and downvote things on GitHub, and that whole community just runs really smoothly. So at DevDelta, for us, we are going to be using open source software as a learning tool. So from here on out, for the rest of this class, we are going to be primarily working on open source projects as like the setting for our learning. Now that may sound like a little bit daunting, but it's really not going to be, I promise. We're going to be starting on one project that we're all going to work on together, whoever wants to, and even if people are, don't make it to all these classes or aren't really even wanting to be a big part of the class because they have jobs or they're doing other things, this will still be something anybody contribute to at any level, any commitment, time, whatever you can and want to give to it, you'll be able to. So, yeah, occasionally we're still going to have some small individual projects, but primarily we're going to be working on a single repository, and we're going to look at it really quick as to what that's actually going to be. So what we're going to build is we're going to build something called Halogen. So this is the name I came up with, and I put together this this mock-up of what this is going to be. And actually, let me pull up Adobe really quick because I have an interactive design here that it should be a little bit better. So this is something that we can totally change. And if anybody wants to make something differently or has an idea, I want this to be a collaborative effort. But this is an idea that I had. I think I'd mentioned this in one of our other classes, but basically I was on a video call and, I'm in a dark office and I have these two massive monitors. And every time I switch a window or like if things aren't set up perfectly, my face looks super red. Like right now I have a bunch of white up. So like my face is super white and still looks kind of like, just rosacea-y and nasty. So I was like, and I Googled really quick to see if there's something like a digital light ring, where it's just basically a big bright color, that I could change the color or put like a little ring of light in there, or like make part of it white and part of it another color and switch windows or whatever, just to like light my face so I look less crappy. And I couldn't find anything, and it's stupid easy. It's just a colored background, really, is all that it comes down to. So I thought that could be fun. That could be a project that we could work on as a class because it doesn't require a ton of complexity to actually get off the ground. So I came up with a name, Halogen, and this is the design for it. So this is a website that will also be the application. So we have this little landing page where we kind of like try to sell it with a little tagline, some buttons, some gradients. These will be provided as images or SVGs. This will be an example of it in action, like somebody without it and then somebody with it. This doesn't have functionality yet, but that would be part of the site. And then probably another pod talking about, how you can use it or examples again. And then this will be a little UI, and we'll have a little full screen button down here. You can just set this whole thing full screen. And you can just adjust the color of like what everything is. You can adjust radial gradients or linear gradients. And then like the icon, these little icons here will change this ring light to be a ring or a square, or you can get rid of it, or just a gradient. And then that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the app. And then I think at the bottom, we're going to add like some little color swatches to say, if your skin tone is this tone, these colors are complementary. If you want to do this or this, we can have little swatches that you can click that would automatically load up colors in here. And then you pull this guy up full screen and you can, maybe send the link to your phone or your iPad, because like the more devices you have, the more light you can bounce off your face. And that's pretty much it for the MVP beginning. And really this app as it stands can be done. We could build this with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS with all of the skills that you guys have learned so far. So there really isn't anything outside of what we already know that would be necessary to build this website. So hopefully, this design, something like this is kind of exciting to think that you could actually build a real looking website that will actually provide some kind of service, even though if, it may be a little contrived. And as I was designing this, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be useful or not, but hopefully it might be. And at the very least, it could be a fun project to work on as a class and as a team. So if we want to change our minds, if we want to change this whole application, do something different, that is completely up to us as a class. And I'm more than happy to change the idea. But this is something that I had to put together that we can use. And I want people to contribute to this. And also what we're going to be doing is we're going to work like a team, as if we were an actual, company working on a project, and this is the product. Now we're going to have stories in GitHub. Everybody can talk about what kind of commitment they want to give, and we can have stories that'll take an hour a week, 30 minutes a week, 2 or 3 hours a week, however much time you want to put into it. And we'll have all these stories you can pull in. It'll be, just set up the nav bar, and then another story for adding a little navigation to the button or a little interactivity to the buttons, and then another story for maybe a hover effect. So really small incremental pieces. And I'm going to try to write as little code as possible for this. So I want this to be something where we as a class and as Dev Delta kind of have ownership over this application. So this would be an open source piece of software that we would all be building together. And as we go forward, if we enjoy working on this application, there's a lot of potential to turn this into something bigger that, based on features, we could actually allow the application to drive our learning moving forward. So for example, if we want users to be able to save a preset and say, okay, I like this color scheme, I'm going to save this. So every time I pull this website up, it automatically loads up this color scheme. Then we can start talking about using local storage and some of the browser APIs and things like that. Once we get to that point, we're definitely going to be hopefully having the conversation about arrays and objects and how we store data. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to let a project and an actual product like this drive the questions in your mind about what could be done and what we would need to make, to solve certain problems. And then when we introduce new topics and new concepts and new parts of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, they immediately make sense because we're actually solving a real problem with these new tools that we're learning. So it's my hope that a project-based learning environment is going to really encourage more engagement and also more, just practical application. Now, to me, one of the most important parts of this is that we would actually be working on a team and using Git and GitHub and doing code review and pull requests and things like that, which is generally lacking in a lot of school settings. Sam, I'll be curious to know how much they go into this at your boot camp. But I think the opportunity to actually contribute to something like this, submit a pull request, and we can have everybody look at it, and I think a lot of our classes in the future, if we actually get some traction with this, is going to be us doing live code review, where we'll pull up somebody's pull request, and as an entire class, we'll go through it and say, okay, awesome, this is great. I like how you did that. I like how you did this. Oh, did you know you could use this method instead, and it would be more efficient or faster, or I didn't know that, and I learned this from you. And it's an opportunity for everybody to learn from each other and really grow and learn what an actual work environment is like, because that's one of the most daunting things when you get to a company is, well, I don't really know how a merge conflict would be resolved. I don't understand how to rebase because I never had to do that because I was always pushing to my own repositories that, it didn't matter. I just had one single main or master branch, and I didn't even do a lot of branching because I didn't need to. So this will help address those issues of actually getting experience under your belt to work on a team. This may seem like jumping the gun as beginners if you're really, at the very beginning of your process here, but this is really important to learn from the get-go. And I think it can be a tool for learning, because once you're at your job, that's just, one small rung, further along in the ladder of learning. Like, you're going to still be learning so much. So I think we should just use these tools right now from the start to start learning through them, because this is how you'll learn at your job as well. And you'll look at other developers' pull requests and learn a lot about how they solve problems. Cool. So I just talked a bunch, but what do you guys think about this concept and this idea moving forward with the class?
Love it.
Cool.
I'm all about it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, not only just like getting kind of a group project started, but also I I like this idea that you've come up with the light ring. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Cool. Yeah, and I, like I said, I don't really know if it's going to be super practical in the long run. And if anybody doesn't like it, even if most of the class likes working on this product, but they want to do something else, totally okay. And I think that in the future, I'd like to have multiple options of like different ideas, and also have options put forward by the class, and say, I'd like to build an app like this, and then we can all just vote. I think we just do ranked choice voting on stuff and say, all right, sweet, let's have a couple apps going, and this will be the primary one, and we'll have a secondary one for anybody who thinks that this is super lame. So that's a little further down the road for such a small class, but those are thoughts that we could do. So nothing is set in stone, and I want this to be something where Martin doesn't come to class at all because he's like way better developer than I am, and he's a professional and he knows what he's doing. But maybe this could be fun for him to contribute code to. And what an awesome opportunity for us as learners to look at other people's code who are really established in the community and read their code and see how they solve problems. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want this to be attractive to everybody. So at the very beginner level, we're going to have stories like bootstrap the absolute base HTML document. So like 10 lines of HTML. That's a story that you're going to commit. You're going to push it up. We're going to do a quick code review on it, and we're going to merge it in. And then we're going to keep going on iterative pieces like that, and we can have anybody at any skill level contribute. But as we go, we're going to be learning a lot, because we're eventually going to have to cross bridges of problems that are more difficult than what we've seen before, and we'll have to learn new tools to solve those. Okay, sweet. So the whole idea of this is going to be an iterative process where we build, and then we're going to be learning, and then we're going to adjust based off of that process. And then we just do it over and over again. We build, we learn, we adjust. Sorry, my computer is lagging behind quite a bit. Cool. So we are actually going to look at contributing to open source a little bit at the end of this. And this is going to be a bit of a shorter class as well. Cool. So the next notes I have is, what are you personally going to get out of open source software? You will become a better developer by contributing to open source. Can you guys hear me okay? It looks like my video froze.
Yeah, your video froze, but I can hear you fine.
Yeah, your audio is fine on my end as well.
Yeah.
I feel like my computer overheats sometimes. Sorry about that.
It's a great face
okay,
too.
Hopefully that.
Yeah.
I know. All right. Sweet. So yeah, what is open source going to give to you guys? So you will become a better developer by contributing to open source. Open source breaks down the walls and silos that are created around people's individual knowledge bases. You may have heard that term, knowledge silo, which is basically just working in your own little world with your little walls up and your blinders on, and as you learn, you're only learning your way to do it. And there's, if you're developing an awesome base of knowledge, it's often not shared with other people, and other people's bases of knowledge aren't shared with you. So open source software breaks those walls down, and it allows collaboration to become the heart of what we do, which I think is really awesome. And most of this is done via code review and pull requests in GitHub. GitHub is not the only place this can be done. There's also GitLab, there's Bitbucket. As Colin just said, told me earlier, there's something called Git, which is a new one that I'd never heard of. There's tons of them. They're all built on top of Git. We're going to be using GitHub. GitHub is generally where open source software is worked on. A lot of those other companies work primarily with proprietary stuff. So yeah, and it takes courage. It takes some courage to put your code out there and allow other people to see it and offer up critiques. But this is a crucial skill to have as a developer. And I'd say it's arguably more important than any amount of syntax you've memorized or cold hard data or information, because this is the ability to grow in humility and to grow in giving advice and giving feedback, because it's really important to be kind as you do code review as well, because it is a lot of people get really personally attached to their code, which is a bad thing in my opinion. But it's good to understand how to be gentle when you are giving reviews, and it's good to accept critiques without feeling like it's a personal attack. That may sound like much more of a soft skill, and it is, rather than a hard technical skill, but it's very important. And that's something that pull requests and code review will help us learn. Dev Delta is going to be a safe space for us to do this while still building a real product, a real project. will be far more prepared to jump into a team and contribute, since you'll know how the process works already. And I know that, we're looking pretty far ahead into the future here, but the name Dev Delta isn't going to mean anything to a potential employer. But if you say, I'm a self-taught open source contributor who worked on this product, go to this website, try it out, here's the actual application, and it doesn't look like it's just some to-do app or a calculator app or some, copy of a multitude of tutorials that a million other people have put on their resumes, especially as a junior developer. I think that is going to really catch the eye of an employer much more. Even just the fact that it says self-taught instead of, bachelor's in something, or, computer science, like that kind of stuff. That won't be as big of a deal if you can really highlight the fact that you're an open source contributor, you've worked on actual projects, you've worked on teams. That's pretty big. That's a big deal. I think that employers would care about that. I think they will care. And you'll have something real to show for it. So learning this way will empower you. It will teach you to work on a team, and it will look good on your resume. I know resumes may feel a long ways away for some people, but they're good to keep in mind. That is the end goal here. If you're just doing this for fun, that is also awesome. But I want to keep the focus of this for people who can, actually turn this into something later on. So sweet. So we're going to talk about your first open source contribution. Alrighty, so I already sent this to Sam, and this is in the curriculum. So if you go to curriculum lesson 8 open source in the Dev Delta repository, you'll be able to access the entire lesson plan we just went through. And then also at the bottom here, for your first open source contribution, this is where we are actually going to do our little homework. It's going to be more of a working session. We're just going to do this together, but I am going to Slack this to everybody in general. Okay, so if you guys want to follow that link, crack it open. God, why is my, okay, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to turn my video off really quick. Am I back?
Yes.
Sweet.
Can see you moving.
Very good. I have my computer like in a drawer in my desk. It's just hot boxing constantly. It's a horrible plan. That's part of the reason this thing overheats all the time, because it's literally in a box. Okay, let me know when you guys get this pulled up.
I've got it up.
Got it. Okie doke, sweet. So we're going to see how this works on a small scale. You're going to add your name to a guest book of sorts. Here is the repository. So if we take a quick look at this, oh, whoops, sorry, that's not the right one. Here's the repo. So it is a repository called First Open Source, and Sam already took this first step of forking this. But under here, there's a little bit of information in the README. And it's talking about practicing forking, cloning, and submitting a pull request on an open source project. The file you're looking at right now is called a markdown file. Are you guys familiar with markdown at all?
Just a little bit. Haven't written it in that
Cool.
yet. But, yeah.
Sweet. It is not a language, really. There may be people who would argue with me on that, but it's not really like a language. So you don't need to be intimidated by it. It's really just a mix-up of like, Microsoft Word formatting and a little bit of HTML, where basically you can use like hash signs to make headings, and you can use like, asterisks to create bold and italicized code, so or words. So it's just a way to format words. All of the lesson plans, if you're curious, you can actually, these are all written in Markdown. So you can actually look at these in Markdown. If you just, let's see, if you look at the raw, so to do like a big heading is a single hash, a smaller one is a double hash. So this is an H2, this is an H1, bulleted lists, images, it's like an exclamation, then a bracket with alt text, then the URL, regular text, like horizontal rule line breaks, quotes, italicizing things. So there's not a ton of syntax. This is pretty much everything for the most part, other than tables. And there's actually a link in than the open source thing for a markdown cheat sheet. So if you have this repo, the first open source open, you can click on the markdown cheat sheet in the new tab and look at that if you like. Using markdown in general doesn't even matter for this. I just put that in there in case you wanted to for fun, just so you know. So what we're gonna do, let's go back and double check on our steps here. So, alrighty, so the first thing we wanna do is fork that repository. So I'm gonna double up on Windows here really quick. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do is fork this repository. So you're gonna go over here and you're gonna click fork. And this is under first open source, that repository. Let's see if this will work. Where should we fork? It probably won't even ask you. That'll probably just take it directly to yours. So now what you're gonna see is you are going to see your name, so your GitHub account / first open source. So basically what happened here is we took all of the code, the entire repository from Dev Delta, and we said, you know what, copy all of that and give it to me. Like I'm duplicating this entire repository and I'm moving it over so there's a new one that lives under my name. So all of your code, all of that repo is now under your space. So we're just copying it over. So when Colin clicks fork and when Sam clicks fork and I click fork, we just created 3 new repositories that are total duplicates of it. But there is a connection back to the original source. So it says forked from developer Delta first open source. So it knows where it originated from, and we're going to use that connection later when we open a pull request. But for now, we have this code under our own name. So now that we're here, now we want to clone the repo. And the order of operations is really important here. You always want to fork first and then do a clone. And this is something that will vary if you're working at a company versus, or a company with like, proprietary software versus open source. The whole forking thing is pretty unique to open source. Usually with normal proprietary software, you will simply clone the repository down. So everybody has the same head, or basically the same origin of code that they're pushing their code back up to, because it isn't, everyone is really a contributor basically because they're all working on that project. With open source, you want to break that off with a fork, and that helps with a couple different things. It helps with branch management. So then whenever we create branches, that we're creating those under our repo. So instead, if you were looking at, let's say you're looking at Chromium, like the Chromium repository, it's a huge open source repository with thousands and thousands of branches and pull requests and things like that. So it helps to clean that up because most of those branches live in other people's repos, like under their name rather than under that one name. So it keeps things clean. And then when the pull requests come in, it just gets merged. And you can follow it if you need to, but it doesn't look as ugly. So these 2 steps are important to do this in the right order. So next up, we're going to clone it. You're going to click code and you can do HTTP or SSH. Go ahead and copy that. Then in your terminal, you're going to type git clone and drop it in. You guys may have jumped ahead. Did you guys already do that? Cool.
Not yet.
So this is cool. Yeah. So go ahead and run that. Run git clone and then paste in that URL. So now this code is moved from the web onto our machine. I don't know why my video keeps doing that. Okay, sweet. So now we have that there. So once we've cloned it in to our machine, we're going to have to enter that directory. So we're going to cd into first open source. So wherever you are, your current working directory in the terminal, when you type git clone and paste in that URL, that is where that folder, that repository is going to be placed. And then we have to go inside of it. After we made it, we need to go inside of it. So now we're inside of first open source. And if you run git status, you should be able to see that we're actually on a branch and we are connected to Git, and we have nothing to commit because we haven't made any changes. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we want to open this up with VS Code. So we're going to type code dot. Now, if this doesn't work for you guys, then you are going to need to run that command in VS Code, and for anybody watching this recording later, this actually might not work for a few people, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this anyway. So if that command does not work and it says code command not found, something like that, you're gonna go into VS Code and you're gonna hit Command P. This opens the command palette, is what they call this. This is a good way to navigate to files or to run commands if you need to. So to run a command, you're gonna do right bracket, space. And for me, it's the first option here, but it's shell command install code command in path. We're gonna click on this and you should see shell command code successfully installed in path. Basically what this means, path in all caps here, is basically a location on your computer. There's a file on your computer that has like aliases and shortcuts. So if you type in a command in the terminal, you're basically saying, this is what you do when I type the code command. And VS Code is manipulating that for us when we open the command palette. And it's saying, hey, I'm assigning a value to this code command. So whenever you type code, it's, do this. And basically what it is open this file in this application. That's all it does. And it's really handy. So you can go ahead and close VS Code now. Now run it again. And it should open up that directory in VS Code. That may have already worked for some of you guys. I just wanted to show that in case it didn't. You can close the little welcome tab. It just shows like new releases and stuff. And like we mentioned before, pretty awesome. This application is completely built on open source. This is an open source piece of software. So everything you see here, all these features, all the things that are added here, if you wanted to go and add something to VS Code, you could totally go do it. And one of the other questions, sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. I guess let's go ahead and actually make a change here. So open up the README file. And what we're gonna do is you can read through this. First of all, this is exactly the same thing as this here. So basically this becomes this here. So the first thing, if you see anything in the README on a repository, when you navigate to it at GitHub, this is always a markdown, and you can actually see this file itself, and that's what we're looking at right here. So here we have an example of kind of what we want to do. Just add whatever you want at the bottom of the file. So you're going to go down here, and I already signed it, but I'm going to do it again. It's kind of like a little guest book, me again. Cool. And then I'm going to do a space and a dash, dash, dash. I'm going to save that. And we may run into an issue having both you guys do this at the same exact time where we see a merge conflict. If we do, we're just going to deal with it. But if not, then it'll come up in the future. So go ahead and make a change to this file, whatever you like. It doesn't matter. It can just be, it doesn't have to be marked down. Just do the dash, dash, dash to break it up so that there's different sections, and don't override anything that's already there. That's pretty much it. You can save the file. And then once you've done that, oh, shoot. Sorry, guys, I made a mistake. Go ahead and undo those changes. Have you guys made changes yet?
Yeah.
How much was it? A lot?
Well, wait, I made changes on my own branch though.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. You did what I failed to do. That's the step that I missed here.
I almost didn't though.
You almost followed me blindly into the abyss. Colin, did you make a change?
Yeah, I'm getting there. My computer's being a bit of a I think my keyboard just died, so
oh, okay.
I'm reaching up to my
well,
laptop.
no
but I think I did.
Actually did.
I think I may have.
Okay, so
yeah,
regardless
I did. Sorry.
Of whether or not you did, it doesn't really matter. You can actually leave the change, but what we want to do is you want to create a branch. So if you have a change in here, you can leave it, or you can delete it and add it back in. It's up to you. But what we're going to do is we're going to check out a new branch. We're going to git checkout -b Michael v2. And it will actually keep your changes in there if you switch from a branch from the other one. The only problem is you have to go back into main and kind of clean up that that change you had made before, because you're going to want to eventually pull from this branch to get like new changes if you need. So yeah, so now we have our own branch. I apologize for that. That was misleading. So we have a branch that we did our work in. We have our changes. And next up, we want to do a add. We need to add the file in. So we're going to, did I actually write these in the wrong? Clone the repo, create a new branch, add. Okay, yeah, make code changes and then run the file. Okay, so we're going to do git add, and we're just changing readme. That's it. Readme.markdown. You can tab complete that. Now, when you do that, you can run git status again. And we should be able to see the file that was modified, and there's changes that need to be committed. So it's kind of giving us a hint as to what's coming next. So now, after we've added it, did you guys get to the added point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Not yet.
Colin, if you're still waiting on your keyboard,
I was just undoing my changes, and now I'm making a new branch. So
okay, sweet. So we did an add, and now we're going to do a commit. And we have an example of what the commit should look like. So it's a git commit, and then -m, which stands for message, which means I want to associate a message with this. And you can run this command just with these three pieces, and it will open up kind of a new window where you can type in what your message is. That can be a little clunky, especially as you're learning. So I like to just do a fourth piece, which is just a string. So git commit -m and then a string, and then you just simply write what you did. So I am adding my second change as Michael. So just whatever you did. Commit messages are important because they are a history of what you did. So basically, if you have like a Word document and you are saving different versions, let's say you wanted to try out a couple different ideas and you save one at one point in time, and then you write a paragraph a totally different way, and you wanted to save it in that, time or whatever, you would maybe name it like my idea of this thing at this point in time, and then say the other file, my idea, blah, blah, blah. So the way you name those files is going to be descriptive of like what they represent. And that's what a commit message is. It's like what your file is saved, like the name of something. So you're basically saying at this point in time, I'm committing changes that did this. So it's important to be as descriptive as possible, because then when you're going back, and if you ever need to actually use Git to revert changes or to remove things, if you run into a lot of non-descriptive commit messages, you're really going to be kicking yourself, because it's not going to help you. You're not really leveraging Git if you're not using descriptive commit messages. So that's important. It's always nice. I think that the longer they are, I don't think it's a big deal to have long commit messages. I think it's better to be more descriptive. You can try to be, concise, but descriptive is good. So git commit -m. So now we can run a git status again. And it says nothing to commit, working tree clean. So it looks like we're good to go, but we have a commit here now that we can actually push up. So what we can do is we can say git push origin branch name. So let's do that. We're going to say git push origin Michael v2, because that's what I named my branch here. It's Michael v2. So whatever you named your branch, you're going to say git push origin v2, the name of your branch. Basically, this is just saying the origin that I want to push these changes up to is this branch. Sometimes you don't need to put origin or the branch name, and that is only if you're already on a branch that Git knows about. So sometimes if you let's say you're making multiple changes to this new branch you created, you could just say git push, and that will work if you have previously made a connection to GitHub with that branch, because then it just by default knows where you are and what where it's headed. So we're going to say git push origin Michael v2. Okay. Now, if you go back to GitHub, we should be able to go to, oh, sorry, I guess I'm already here. Yeah. Should be able to refresh on your own page. So this is mine under your name, first open source. now we see a little change here. We say, okay, Michael V2 had recent pushes less than a minute ago. So compare and pull request. So this is a cool, quick and easy way for us to actually just go in and create a pull request, which is awesome. So let's say that you missed this though. Let's say you didn't end up seeing this message. What we would do is you're going to click on this little button here. So this is the icon for your branches. So we click on this. First of all, we see there's 2 branches, which is cool. So we could click on here and go to this, or we could just click on branches here, 2 branches, and find, okay, active branches, Michael V2, your branches, Michael V2, main. So you will notice that Sam and Colin have both created branches, but I don't see those here at all. And the reason is because that we are not looking at the same base repository at this point in time. I'm looking at the fork of the base repository, and I forked it into my space. So this is my version of the repository. That's why I only see my branches in the main branch. Sam only sees his branch and the main branch. Colin only sees his branch and the main branch. So when we create our pull request, this is where the magic happens. This is where we can really start bringing things together. So what we want to do is we are going to create a pull request, and we want to create the pull request back into the original location, not back into our own version of it. So let's compare and pull request. And this is where it actually kind of did the work for us automatically, but this is where we would really get our code back into the original location. So what we see here is a couple different options. We say we're creating a new pull request by comparing changes across 2 branches. If you need to, you can also compare across forks. I don't think we need to click on this to do this because it looks like this is already working here. So the base repository, developer delta, first open source, and that's the repo that we're going back into. And then this is the branch. The branch is main. There's only 1 main branch on that, which is okay for now because this is really just a practice thing. A lot of times there'll be multiple branches, like you'll have a feature branch or a development branch, and then you'll have your production branch, and there's a whole world. And we'll talk more about some of those things, but there's a ton of ways to manage Git workflows is what they call those. But for now, we're going to go with a real simple one. And then there's a little arrow going to the left. It's kind of weird that it's like to the left rather than to the right, but you don't need to worry about that. It just means going into. So these are going into here. So we have our head repository, my name, first open source, cool. And then Michael V2. So this is where my work is. So I don't want to pull up the main branch. If I pulled up main, it's going to say there are no changes to compare because the main branch is identical to the other one. So I want to put in my changes, which are on my branch here, Michael V2. So able to merge. They can automatically be merged. And then we want to put in a comment here about what we're doing. And this is cool. So we see our commit message actually pre-populated into GitHub here. So GitHub was like, cool, I am built on top of Git, so I have access to all the Git stuff. So it pulls in the commit message and pre-populates. And then we'll say, I am adding a second commit change for example purposes. You can put whatever you like there. And I'm going to create the pull request. This is where the magic happens. Da-da-da-da. That's pretty exciting. Okay, so we've actually created a pull request. I'm going to pause there. Colin, Sam, did you guys get stuck anywhere?
I think I just created it. I don't know if it worked.
Okay. So
yeah,
we can check it out. Awesome. So let's go into first open source. We see 3 branches. That's pretty cool. I see 2 pull requests here. Okay, pull requests 2. Awesome. All right. I see Sam's. I see James Michael. I see me. Okay, so Colin, did you add yours?
Yeah, I just did.
Oh, you just did. Nice. Okay, signed the markdown document. Very cool. So this is fun. So let's go look at these. This is great. If there's any profanity in here, Colin.
Nope, kept it civil.
So we can look at the commits. We can have conversation about it. Files changed. Okay, CBear was here. Awesome. On line 42. So we can see what it was before, what it became now. Now, this is like a whole new world basically at this point in time. I don't want the significance of this to be lost, because this is where some of the most important software development happens, is right at this point in time when I'm a different engineer. I am looking at the changes Colin made. I made a decision to be involved in this code base and to read the code that he made because I care about this actual application and we want to all contribute. And this is where your personal interest has to, like, you have to bring yourself to be interested enough to read other people's code, contribute to what they're trying to do, better their code, and eventually just better the entire repository. It's easy to just, heads down, do your own thing, work on your own stuff, submit pull requests, then you get a bunch of people who, passively scroll through, cool, whatever, approve. That sucks. And that happens a lot, where there's a lot of companies that kind of lose that they don't put a lot of value on code review. And they don't put a lot of value on actually participating in conversations, but they should. And it's very important. The best teams that I've been on are the teams that really treasure this time. I was on a team for a while that allocated 2 hours a day. So every developer, when they were planning out people's time and said, people can, you have this much time available to work on stories. So you're going to do this story and this story, just kind of, trying to do time management for a team. They would always allocate 2 hours a day to each developer just for reading code review. Which I think is a great practice, to say that 2 hours out of your day, every single day, you will be reading other people's code and, adding questions and conversation. And it was awesome. And like, when I was new on that team, that was a great gift to me as a newbie, because I would come in and, see something that somebody wrote and I'd be like, wow, that's really cool. I've never seen that before. And I could just write a question on this line, and I'd click on line 42, for example. And I'd say, hey, Colin, great job with this code here. You'd say, out of curiosity, what does the pound sign do? And then I would add this comment, and knowing that we all agreed to look at code, and I knew that other people would see that question and they'd be able to answer. And it's just a really cool collaborative way to learn. And I hope that it's already pretty clear how this is a great learning opportunity, because if I write something using .inner HTML is how I'm trying to manipulate the DOM, and somebody else uses .append, and this is when maybe somebody else didn't know about inner HTML or didn't know about .append, you say, oh, that's cool, that's awesome, you did it that way. And then maybe you look it up and you learn that there's a third parameter you can pass to something, and that improves it in this way, where like everybody would be learning together. It's just communal learning, which is really valuable. And then Colin can reply to this, and we can continue to have this conversation, which can be really sweet. So yeah, GitHub, and actually using this feature here where you have pull requests and you have approvers and whatnot. So since I am one of the maintainers of this original repo, I think, let's see, reviewers, let's see. So what I'm gonna do is, I actually don't know where that button went, but I can approve the pull request and say, okay, cool, looks like you did a good job, Colin, like, I love it. Interesting, I don't know where that button is. I'll have to get back to you guys on that. But at this point, basically I can say I looked at it, it looks good, approved. And then, comment, you would see that, say, awesome, that's cool. If you had the permissions, you'd be able to actually merge it in. I don't think you do. Colin, if you open up this PR, do you have the ability to merge it into Dev Delta main on your own?
It doesn't appear so.
Are you looking at the pull request under Dev Delta? So Dev Delta / first open source?
Yep.
Okay. And at the bottom, what does it look like down here? Do you see my approved comment?
I see your approved comment. I have the button to close the pull request, but that's not merging it, is it?
Nope.
Yeah. So I don't have a merge button.
Okay, cool. So what merging is going to do, and I know that I know that Git, and we spent a little bit of time going over it, but this is still all totally new and a lot of learning going on here, but not for you two guys, but for anybody watching this potentially. So when we click merge pull request, basically we are saying that we had a Collins branch that had his little signature that he added to that markdown document, right? That was an exact duplicate of the original branch that had everything except for his little change. So he took this branch, duplicated it over, added his little change. So these two branches are exactly the same, except for that one little piece that he added. And that change is reflected in files changed. So it only shows us the delta, which is cool. A delta is the difference between two files or two things. And we see the delta is only this one line here. So it knows that that's all that's actually getting merged in. So when we have that merge request, we're basically saying, hey, I'd like to put this little tiny piece into here. Can I do that? And there are no conflicts, which means that the same piece of code was not changed in two places, as far as we know. So we're able to just merge those two things back together, and that branch is merged in with the original branch. So all those changes become a part of the original branch when I click merge pull request. So let's do it. Let's merge in his pull request. We'll put Collins commit is good. Okay, sweet. Confirm merge. Now, we're going to go back into first open source, check this out, and in the README, Seabear was here. We see Collins change was added. That's awesome. Okay, now, we don't see Collins over here because it's been closed. So this is because the is PR is a pull request and it is open. So if we change this to all pull requests, we can see closed as well. Like if we change this to is closed, oh, we can see Collins there. Cool. All right, great. Okay, so we have Sam's here. So we're going to go adding my own changes. Awesome. Let's look at Sam's. All right. Adding changes, the bottom of readme.markdown. Let's look at files changed. Ooh, nice. We got some stuff going on here. I love it. Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, so let's go over here and look at conversation. So do you guys notice this? This branch has conflicts that must be resolved. So this is a merge conflict. And do you guys have any idea why this happened?
I think we both wrote on starting on the same line on line 42.
Yep, which totally makes sense, right? Because you guys both submitted those pull requests. So if I had merged Sam's in first, and then we were looking at Collins now, Collins would probably have a conflict as well, right? Because it was just the order that we did it. So when we merged Collins in, there was nothing there. There was no changes that were made, which is fine. But now that we're merging yours in on top of his changes, basically this is where the whole like dots of the Git, the GitHub dots, where it's like, here's a commit, here's a little line, here's a dot, and as following the timeline of Git. And I don't have anything to draw super easily on here, but that's where that really helps to visualize this. There's probably a graph view that we could actually see it here, but basically what happened is this branch now has it's been added, Collins changes have been added to it. So when Sam's branch is like, hey, can I come in and like be a part of that branch now? I want to put these changes into it. It says there are changes that happen that you don't have, and they happen in the same exact place, which means you have to resolve that, because Git isn't, a magician that knows which one you want. Like maybe you, Sam, were actually making a change that, was fixing something. Like let's say Colin put something in there that was a typo and you were replacing his line, and say, oh, I'm actually fixing that typo. You would say, no, I want Sam's because it's better, it's right. Hey Decker, stop. So for now though, we want to keep both. So what we need to do is we need to resolve these conflicts. So what we're going to do here is, Sam, do you mind actually sharing your screen? Are you guys doing okay on time? I know we're coming up here at the end. This is pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Sam, if you need to go, just let me know. I don't want to get you trapped. You are muted, Sam.
Okay, sorry. All right. Can you see this?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Sam, have you managed a merge conflict before?
I haven't. This is the
Oh,
first.
this is gonna be a thrill. I love it. Okay, so first up, let's type git branch to see what branch you're on. Okay, you are on Sam's branch. Awesome. That is correct. Now, what we need to do is basically we need a way to take the changes in main, because Colin's changes are in main, right? They're in that main branch. So we want to be able to say, okay, the main branch, let's make sure that's up to date. It has Colin's changes. Then we need a way to say, you know, let's put the changes from main into the Sam's branch. And then I will personally take care of the conflicts and say, okay, I want both of these things. And then we put a new commit, we commit all those again and say, okay, I looked at it, I have all of those changes. Now I'm going to push up a new commit, and then that will be resolved. So the first thing we need to do is we need to actually change into the main branch so that we can get those changes. So if you check out main and do a cat, run a cat command on that really quick. So do cat readme.md, cat space, capital R, there you go. When we run this, we don't see Colin's change, right? And the reason is because our version is what they would call stale. It is stale because there were new changes that were made in the cloud on GitHub that we aren't aware of. Our machine, our physical computer doesn't know about that. So we need to do a git pull specifically on this branch. So because you're on main, you can just type git pull, or you can type git pull origin main. It's up to you.
Git pull, I'll just do the whole thing. Origin.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, now go ahead and run that last command. If you hit the up arrow twice.
Oh, that's right. I always forget about that shortcut.
It's nice, it's nice. Okay, so we actually don't have, oh, do you know why this happened? So main is your main, your fork.
Oh, okay.
So this is actually interesting. So what we need to do is we need to get your main up to date with the main from the original repository.
Right.
Which that's actually interesting. I'm not sure the best way to do that. Let me go look and see. Sam, let's try something out. So what we could do is you could go back to GitHub and you could do a clone. You could actually clone down the primary dev delta slash first open source repository into a different repo on your machine. So if you actually go back to GitHub in the browser.
Yeah. Okay. So I just copied that from dev delta first open source. And then
okay, sweet. So you definitely want to leave this repo then. So you want to go like cd ...
Oh, oops,
I actually directory. Okay.
Have two directories there.
Oh, so, nice. No worries.
Yeah, just should I create a new directory then?
So all you have to do is just type, yeah, I guess you probably should create a new one because it'll be named the same exact thing. So do cd or make dir, yeah, sorry. Whatever you want, like yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. Cool. And then cd into that, and then do your git clone. Okay, sweet. Now, cd into first open source now from here.
Okay.
Okay, now, if you do a cat on readme.markdown, you should see Colin's changes.
Oh, wait, sorry, I just went to my own.
Oh, okay, I see. Nice.
Okay, cat. Yeah, there's the changes.
Okay, so there's Collins changes. Now type git branch. Let's check out, let's see what this branch looks like here.
Just as main.
Okay, so we have the main branch here. Do a git remote, type git space remote. Sorry, git remote -v, add a -v to the end of that. So git remote space -v. Okay, dev delta first open source git. Okay, so I think what we could do is if you actually copy either one of those, they're both exactly the same. If you copy that URL,
Yeah.
just the URL,
and then go to.
then, yep, then go back to yours. I'm almost certain this isn't the right way to do this. I'll have to update this video with the right way to do it. But do you guys see like what problem we're kind of trying to solve though, to make sure the same actually gets the right code? So what you can do here now is basically say git pull space, now paste in that URL.
Okay.
And then do space main after that. So instead of origin, we're replacing origin with that URL. Let's see what happens.
Ooh.
Did that work? Oh, it did work. All right, do an ls or a branch. Okay, now do a cat on that one again.
Hey.
Okay, nice. All right, sweet. Okay, so that did work. That is probably not the right way to do it, but hopefully that kind of gives you guys like a mental model of how you could do that. Yeah. I have to do some more reading on the right way to do it. But basically, and once again, this is more of an open source thing because of forking. You don't actually usually fork in like a work environment. Generally, if you were just at work, you'd be able to switch back to main and the main branch would have the changes your coworkers have made. So this is kind of a convoluted way to get there, but that worked. I've never done that before. I'm glad that worked. Now, Sam, do you have an idea of what the next steps we would want to take are?
So at this point, do I merge, or would I want to resolve the issue on that file first and then merge?
So let's look at that file. So if you actually do code dot, go ahead and just open this up in your VS Code. Did that work?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You can only see that one screen, huh?
Yeah, is it easy to switch over to see that one?
Let me see.
If not, it's not a big deal.
There, can you see that?
But, yes, awesome. Okay, so this is something that we're going to see here. So when there's a conflict, there's very specific syntax that's added into your file by Git. So this is not showing a conflict at this point in time. And when there's a conflict, it's like, all the alarms are going off. It'll definitely tell you. So there's no problem with this file at this point in time because we don't have your changes in here because we're in the main branch, right? Mm-hmm. So let's go back to your terminal. We'll toggle between these two windows a little bit here. And now let's go ahead and check out your branch. You can tab complete that as well. Cool. Okay, now do you see how what just changed behind you? Like in VS Code? So you could actually live see the code toggle back and forth because this is really, switching between save states. At this state, at this branch, at this point in time in the time machine, this code was there. But then let's check out this other world, this other alternate universe, and see what code's there. Now Sam's code's there. Okay, sweet. So we need to get Collins into here. So what we can do, and this is generally the best practice for doing this, is in your feature branch, you want to pull in the main branch into your branch that you did your work on. And that's just generally a good practice because usually you don't want to mess up that main branch if at all possible. So we're going to stick here in our branch and you're going to do git pull main. Sweet. And that should pull that in. Main does not appear to be a Git repository. Oh, wait, sorry, not git pull. I'm sorry, I meant git merge. So we're gonna do git merge main. So what this is gonna do is this is gonna merge main into your branch. So now I want you guys to really appreciate how cool VS Code is for this. So first of all, it gives us this massive highlight. It says, here's a problem. See those the accept current change, accept incoming change. Those are buttons that you can click that will actually change and like take action on your code, which is great. So we see green is the current change and we see incoming change is blue. So what we want is, what do we want here, Sam? See what the other options are too, that next one.
I guess accept both changes.
Yeah, because we really do want both. It's not like, you know, one was from a previous point in time and it was a bad idea and then we replaced it with a better idea. They're just both your changes. So we want both. So go ahead and click accept both. Now, at this point, you have a little leeway where you can say, you know, you could actually move things around still at this point and say, no, that actually didn't work perfectly. Like I want mine to be below Collins. You could do that. You could move stuff around at this point, because at this point in time, you know, Git knows that you know what was happening. So you have resolved this at this point in time. As soon as you save this file, this is a resolved conflict. So you can put yours below Collins or whatever. Totally up to you. This is fine, actually. This looks fine to me though. Okay. So now that you hit Command save, Command S for save, now go back over to your terminal. And we're gonna run a git status really quick. Okay, cool. And another thing that I want you to look at here is if we go up a little bit here, and you know, you see when we ran git merge main, and I apologize for that git pull, I just was the wrong terminology there. So when we ran git merge main, this is something that as a beginner, as a noob, you know, people tend to really overlook these walls of text that get spit out at you and just vomited back constantly, which, you know, makes sense because usually these kind of things aren't helpful to us as users. We're like, man, something went wrong, just set a bunch of stuff, a bunch of computer crap. But it's really useful as a developer. And this is where, when you start reading this stuff, and if you slow down, take a deep breath and give yourself a little bit of patience to read through some of these things, it tells you what to do. It gives you the answers a lot of the time. So if we see here, we see git merge main. Okay, auto merging readme.markdown. So it's trying to take care of any conflict for you, basically. Or sorry, it's trying to take care of merging it if there is no conflict. Like let's say Colin's change was on line 50, your change was on line 49. An auto merge would succeed because there would be no conflicts. But that was not the case. We had a conflict with content. Merge conflict and readme.markdown. Automatic merge failed, fix conflicts, and then commit the result. Cool. That's pretty straightforward. It says fix the conflicts and then commit the result. So we have fixed the conflict, and now we need to commit the result. And it says you have unmerged paths, fix conflicts, and run git commit. So it's really telling us, yeah, exactly. Cool. Great. Yeah, see, use git add file to mark resolution. So by doing this, you are marking that file as resolved. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet. Git commit -m. You can do the inline comment or the one where it pops up in the little window, either way. Exactly. That's great. Sweet. Now git status. Let's run git status one more time. Branch Sam's branch, nothing to commit, working tree clean. Awesome. So we fixed the merge conflict here. This is great. Now, we talked about this command previously called git log. Git log is really handy, especially when you've done something like this, because git log, it logs out the history of commits to kind of see what has happened in the past. I love this command. I use it a lot. So go ahead and run git log, because we kind of, you know, we want to see this history. This is an interesting history at this point. So now we see initial commit, updated readme. This is me building the lesson plan itself. First commit, edited readme. So I made a change because I was a typo there. Oh no, sorry, that was you. But those first two were me like building it, and then you first commit, edited readme. Awesome. And then Sam, you did another commit when you added the image, and then Colin came in and signed the markdown document. Now that's pretty sweet. We have Colin's commit in our Git history because this is the merging of work. together into the main branch. Now, do you see on the right here? We see origin main, sorry, the red down at the bottom. When I would like mine, for example, my updated README commit, we see origin main, origin head. So that is like, I was doing work directly on the main branch because this was a repository I created. So I have direct push access. Then Sam came in, cool. Added image, sweet. Now we see that commit, it was on origin Sam's branch. So we can see the branches on the right-hand side. And then signed the markdown document, that was from Colin. Now that branch was not just in the regular old main branch because it's only showing the merge commit. That is the merge commit for when his came in. And then merge pull request. Oh, sorry, I apologize. This is the merge commit. Merge pull request number 3 from CBear, Colin's branch. Colin's commit is good. Then that's that actually coming into this code base. So it's showing Colin's commit from other branches. I don't know why that doesn't show his branch. I kind of expected that to be there, but either way, we're seeing like a cool history tree here of what's happened. And then we see Sam has resolved conflicts. And now we're going to be able to actually push your work up into your branch and submit another pull request. So go ahead and hit Q. Q is how you get out of here. Because you're currently in like a view of git log, and if you hit enter, it'll like scroll, which is kind of cool.
Okay. Oh wait,
oh, sorry, but not after you got out.
I think yeah, that must be all of the okay.
Oh, that's it. Okay, sweet. So yeah, go ahead and hit Q to get out of there.
Oh.
Hold on. I think it's Q.
It must be the case that it showed all the logs, so it wasn't scrolling through it.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. If it doesn't, then Q is how you quit out of that. But cool, you're good to go. So now let's do a git branch again, just to see where we're at with branches. Okay, so we're on Sam's branch. Great. So we need to actually push those changes up to your branch first of all. So go ahead and run a git push. You can do git push origin Sam's branch or just git push. Okay, it looks like your branch
has no upstream.
Oh, did you do git checkout -b Sam's branch, or did you do git checkout Sam's branch?
You mean the first time?
This most recent time.
This most recent time, I think I just did git checkout.
Okay, that should be good. That should be good. And you're in your fork of this, right? Not the dev delta one at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Don't you?
Okay.
I think you just need to do git push origin, don't you?
And maybe, yeah, let's try that. Do git push origin Sam's branch.
Oh, seems like that.
Huh, interesting. So I guess you just didn't have the remote set up correctly. And when they say remote, that just means the corresponding branch that's actually on the web.
What was
it can get up there.
When I said git push, then it just didn't know like where the origin was. Is that what?
Yeah, exactly. So the current branch, Sam's branch, has no upstream branch. To push the current branch and set the remote as upstream, use git push dash set upstream origin Sam's branch. Oh, you know what? I think that git push set upstream, that basically just allows you to use the shorthand git push, because then it says now I have a default. Okay. So that's kind of confusing because when it says there is no upstream branch, you're like, but there is a Sam's branch in GitHub. But basically, it's just saying you haven't told me what the default is. Gotcha. So I can't do anything with that command. Gotcha. So when you do set upstream, now if you made like 100 more changes, you just do git push, git push, git push, and it would automatically go to Sam's branch because you already set the upstream.
I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. And this should not push any changes, but it should set set up to to track remote branch, Sam's branch from origin, everything up to date. Cool. So now let's go back over to GitHub really quick. I think we should be done with the terminal now.
Do you want to share screen now, or do you want me to do it?
Let's see what you see really quick for a sec. And then we can switch back.
All right, should I look at this?
Okay, so let's go look at Sam's, look at yours. Adding my own changes, let's click on that. And let's make sure that your commit is in there. So committed 32 minutes ago. What have you done? Okay, now go to commits. Click on the commits tab. There we go. Okay, resolved conflicts 6 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Dope. Now, now I'll go ahead and take over the screen share. Okay. So now when we go over here, when I refresh this, you know, let's say I slacked Sam and I said, hey dude, looks like there's a conflict. Can you go ahead and resolve that? And then I'll take a look at your PR again. I go in to look at Sam's. Adding changes about README. Colin says, what have you done? I say, boo. And let's see, resolve conflicts. So this is, see this little line here? This is kind of just showing a timeline. This is basically a timeline saying da 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 da, things are happening, resolved conflicts. There's new changes since I last viewed. Oh, cool. All right, let's view those changes. And I say, okay, interesting. So if C-Bear was here, so this was your resolving of conflicts. And I'm able to merge this now because this branch has no conflicts with the base branch. That is pretty cool. So I say, looks good. Good job. Thank you for resolving those conflicts. Comment. So I say, cool, you did a great job. And then I go ahead and merge it. And I want to make sure that I'm merging this into the right place. So I'm going to go up here and double check here and make sure where it's happening. So wants to merge 3 commits to developer delta main from Sam Lee McKnight, Sam's branch. Perfect. That sounds good to me. Confirm merge. Probably could have changed that comment, but it doesn't really matter. Now I merged that commit into dev delta main. Dev delta, first open source. Now the moment of truth. We look at our README. We see I was here, Sam was here, and Colin was here. Sick. Sam was saying potatoes. Indeed it is. Awesome. Oh, whoops. Very cool. Does this look like code? It does. That's awesome. So now we only have my remaining branch out there, which I created mostly to see the conflict, but we already got to go through that. So yeah, that's great. We were able to merge a couple branches, and you guys contributed open source. We just did some open sources-iness. That's what that was. And really the primary difference between contributing to open source and contributing like on a team is the forking piece. And I need to figure out the right way to basically like rebase and get back up to speed, get your branches all worked out without having to do that weird main thing. So potentially just doing it in GitHub is the best way to do it, but I'll read up on that a little bit and probably edit this video. But yeah, that's awesome. Also, Sam, to give you a little pointer, yeah. You can use these little 3 dots, and I should have put this in the code review here, but here for these 3 dots, you can actually change this to be ... or sorry, backtick, and you can put in the language.
Oh.
So if you do like this, it will actually give you syntax highlighting for that language, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Oh shoot, cancel, add single comment. So yeah, this will actually give you that syntax highlighting. So see how it turns like red. So
yeah,
just fly. Great guys. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.